This video is about my experiences at a couple recent small tournaments, and to my surprise I won both with the Maggotkin of Nurgle. By basically saying that gaming for me has been few and far between for many years, even before the launch of Age of Sigmar. And I'm always amazed by people that play 100+ games in a year, or you played for a single faction literally hundreds of times. That has not been my experience. I've kept roughly a good track of games, with the exception of some of my earliest in the first year, and from about late 2016-ish or so. Since then, I've played about 46 games, so not that many. In fact, in like 2019, I only played a single game all year. And that includes like Blood Bowl. I think that even includes like Warhammer Underworlds, a couple games of 40k. So like, the very few and far between, not nearly as much as I would like at all. I think even the first year of AOS, the first few months, I played maybe 6 or 7 extra games on top of that. So maybe the total is roughly around 50, but you factor that out over several years, it's not a lot of games. However, I did play my first games of 3.0 with Paul Conti from Radio Free Hammer Hall in February, and we had a great time. It's a team tournament. We lost against Vince and Tom from Warhammer Weekly, but we scored 4 wins thereafter, so we went 4-1 for that tournament. I think we came in 2nd or 3rd overall for battle points or something like that. It was a good showing for us, and we played Maggotkin of Nurgle, and I absolutely loved playing that faction. It just seemed quite dependable to me, and quite a good solid force to be using. The AOS community here in Maine has been a little bit rough. I've been here off and on. I've moved in and out of Maine a couple times since AOS launched. There wasn't a lot of traction initially. Seemed like most of the fantasy players, the Warhammer fantasy players, didn't really jump onto it. Just wasn't really their jam. I did play a couple games early on here, but not much. And then I moved away. And I moved back recently, just a couple years ago, but in the fall of 2020, so the pandemic was still kind of in force, and playing in store and such just wasn't a thing. It seemed like they might have had half decent playing scene. Maybe they were playing a bit weekly when I was gone, and then that of course died down because of the pandemic. So there's a little bit of effort now, though, to restart things. And I've gotten to know a couple people that play in the area. I've been playing with a newer player myself. I've invited him over to the house, and we've played a few games in my little gaming area. And it just seems like there's a whole host of new players getting into it. And so there were recently basically 2 1,000-point tournaments in the area. One at Game On in Augusta, and one at Crossroads Games in Standish. The first had about 5 opponents. The second had about 7. And these are completely different gaming groups, right? So you're looking at about 12 players or so. I guess I'm included in that, so that'd be 11. But pretty much all new, playing 1,000 points roughly for the first time. Some of them had just played their first game at these events, and it was really cool to see. I'm really happy where the direction here is going, and hopefully we can get this gaming group together. But there were 2 events. I won both of them. I'm pretty happy with that. I would consider myself a relatively inexperienced, relatively new player. Playing a couple games a year is not something to hang my hat on and think I'm any type of major competitive player by any means, but it was still fun to see. Some of the new players were disgruntled 40k players, but that's just what it is. You know, I had won some tournaments many years ago. We're talking like 2005 or something like that. So 17 years later, it's nice to have at least won a couple events, even if they are fairly minor. Just gives me some confidence that, you know, maybe I can attend some of the bigger events, and maybe I'm not actually that bad at the game after all. But we'll see. We'll see. So, playing Maggotkin of Nurgle. It's a 1,000-point list. I went with Drowned Men as my sub-faction. I had Hold the Line as my grand strategy. I had the Inspired as my triumph. I took a Lord of Afflictions with an artifact, the Arcane Tome, and he had Magnificent Buboes as his spell. That's the one that can project basically or target a hero and make them -1 to hit, -1 for prayers, -1 for casting, and things like that. I have in the past used Gift of Disease. I think that is a very useful spell. Really was super useful at Holy Wars. But I thought for a 1,000-point list, something a little more targeted would be a bit better. And I think it played out pretty well. For his command trait, I took Overwhelming Stench. And basically that's a 7-inch bubble where they can't issue or receive commands within that very passive effect. Quite useful because your Lord of Afflictions is often at the heart of the combat. Just gives you that edge, right, where you can do abilities where the opponent can't counter, and it was actually pretty useful in several instances. Other than that, the rest of the army is 2 Puscoil Blightlords and 2 units of 5 Blight Kings. This is only 930 points. So it's a bit of a handicap. In some of my previous games, I did take a Chaos Spawn. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it still brought me up to something like 185 or something like that. I just didn't think the Chaos Spawn was particularly that useful. And it's just something to, you know, think about and worry about. And it is 1 extra body on the board. But at 930, man, I'm guaranteed to get my triumph because no one else is that stupid to take such a low point number. And I just thought in general the triumph, almost a guaranteed chance of getting a triumph, is pretty damn useful. You know, that +1 to wound on 25 attacks from Blight Kings, especially if they're all out attack, 2s and 2s, -1 rend, in a 1,000-point game, you're gonna do some damage to whatever you're attacking. And I think it did play out well. So I honestly think that, you know, yes, it is 1 less body on an objective, but it might give me a battle tactic when I might normally not succeed. It's such a small list. Hold the Line is easy to do because basically everything is battle line. You basically have to wipe me out in order for me not to get that. There's no throwaway units in this army. They're all, you know, really solid lists. It's only 4, but it really packs that punch. They're really easy to manage. You know, I just thought it was just an all-around good, comfortable force. It might be a little hard to sometimes get the objectives, but most of the time I could wipe whatever I needed to do, and they're tough as nails for them to actually counter me, right? If they want to try to get broken ranks on me or something, they have to put some serious damage to actually eliminate one of my units. There is nothing there that's really particularly weak or something that's an easy challenge for them to do. It's also 2 to 4 drops. If I need to, I can just put the 2 Blight Kings down. I can hold the flies up and drop them later, or I can use the pre-game move. Really useful. You know, so in both of the events, or over both events, I should say, I played Savage Gains, I played the Vice, I played Power in Numbers, I played First Blood, I played Power Struggle. Pretty much all new scenarios to me. I also had opportunities to play against factions that I really just don't have too much experience with. So Seraphon, Daughters of Cain, Lumineth, Ironjaws, Fire Slayers, all those were pretty much new experiences for me. And just a great learning experience to play against these types of forces. You know, I'm relatively aware of what these factions can do. I listen to, you know, the odd video and the odd little podcast, and I certainly pay attention to what's going on social media. So I have some sense of what these forces were capable of, but actually seeing it on the table, knowing what the damage is actually doing to me, I quickly realized that you need to watch out for this and that, but I held my own, and I managed to win all 6 games across both tournaments. So I don't have a lot of photos from this. I would love to, next time I do an event, I'll take some more photos, I'll do some play-by-play, but I'll just talk in general about, some of my sense of it. They played at Game On. They were using the kind of the small kind of cardboard cutouts that GW has that you can buy as they're like little play spaces for like Kill Team and stuff like that. And so they're like a 2x3 or something. So it's a bit smaller. The Crossroads use the traditional 60x44 now. But the games at Game On, maybe on on the small side, it was really easy for me to get the pre-game move and move my flies up within 3 inches of them. Right? That's like guaranteed almost every single, no matter what scenario it was. The one scenario in which we played lengthwise down the table, I dropped my flies in, managed to get some long charges off, and got in there. And so that's, even though I won all 6 games, there's definitely a degree of luck. I made every single charge that I really felt I had to do, and even some that were just kind of, that would be really nice if I can make that 10-inch charge, I made. And so I had a bit of luck there. The Wheel of Contagion definitely played its part as well. There was one really crucial combat phase where I was against a lot of melee snakes, Daughters of Cain. They could not pile in closer to me. That was the effect of the wheel that round. That was key, right? It was like 10 melee snakes, and only 1 or 2 could actually get in contact with me that turn. That was a big deal. And then, of course, he was strung out. My Blightkeens managed to charge him from behind. It was fantastic. And so I wasn't predestined to win this. It wasn't just purely my tactical genius that did it. A little bit of luck. But I still pulled it off. I still won all 6 games. I think I played relatively intelligently. I focused on the objectives. I used my command abilities at the appropriate times. I think I implemented the right tactics in the right order, and so on. I could kind of gain a sense roughly when I was playing of how the game was going to progress. I gained an edge in points, and I did everything I could to kind of keep that edge over the opponent. So some of them came down to just a few points. I did unfortunately have one blowout where I won 22-1 against one of the players. That just did not go well for him at all. I really just capitalized on a couple of his early mistakes, and it just didn't work out for him, and that's really unfortunate. That was kind of the one feel bad one, right, where like the game only lasts an hour and you're kind of waiting around for everyone else to finish their games. But all in all, good experience, good opportunity to play against a lot of different people. And it was not foretold whatsoever. After winning the first tournament, I thought, well, maybe I have a chance at this one too, at the second one. And I defeated the first opponent, who was Iron Jaws. Very close game. The second was the blowout. So I was like, okay, I got this now. And then the third game, close enough against a very experienced Fire Slayers player. I dropped my flies, made my long-inch charges, eliminated a unit of Berserkers, got the second turn, consolidated into his Magmadroth, killed that, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna destroy him. Except he did have a hero on foot and a unit of Hearthguard Berserkers, and they did some work to me back. And it was a little touch and go there for the next round or two, when I thought, he's going to turn this around because he's just killing whatever he touches. But thankfully, I edged him out, and I managed to do it. Basically, I mean, again, a little bit of luck there, where he had a pretty close charge. His character made it in. The unit did not, even with a reroll. I think it was like a charge of 5 or 6 inches, and he just failed both. And that was really key. And then I could kind of consolidate and eliminate the character without his bodyguard rules and things like that. So, all in all, really thrilled to have won all 6 games, and just given me a sense that, maybe I can play the larger ones. We'll see. I'll probably get probably get wiped hardcore in the next tournament. But I will say this: I've played Maggotkin now 15 times. I lost the first 2 games against Vince and Tom, and since then I've been on a 13-game winning streak with them. And that feels pretty good. Look, I set myself a goal this year of playing 25 games. I thought that was a pretty aggressive but manageable goal. By now, I had a couple of slow months in March and April, but with those 2 tournaments and Holy Wars and stuff, I'm at currently 17 games. And look, I might be playing a game of 40K this weekend. My wife has some interest in playing some games with me as well. I'm actually registered to attend an event down in Connecticut in July run by Paul, Radio Free Hammer Hall. And there's a really cool event in September I'd like to go to as well. That is it's at like a state park where basically they've rented out a building. You get to go. I think they like cook their own meals and they basically play Warhammer all day. It's like a 2-day, 10-round thing, and they camp out overnight. And it's just, you can bring alcohol and just chill out. And that sounds like a pretty fun experience. So hope I can make that. But I would say at this point, I stand a good chance of crushing that goal. And all this experience just means 2 things for me. Number 1, I really love Maggotkin. I think it's a fantastic army. I'm happy with my choice of making that my competitive army of this year. I think I'm going to continue that trend for the foreseeable future. Number 2, the gaming community here seems to be really growing and pushing forward in positive ways. There's more events. There's another event actually at Crossroads next month. I believe there's an event at Game On every single month. So I could keep doing this month after month and just, I'm not saying I'm going to win every single one, but certainly playing every single one and really get some games and get some experience. They're increasing the point totals from 1,000 to 1,500 next month. I'll actually be playing at 2,000 points down in Connecticut, I believe. All the headwinds are moving in the right direction. I'm super excited. I think this will be a fantastic year for me. Both in terms of painting, both in terms of hobby, both in terms of getting some games down and dice rolling. All good things. Thrilled to have won events after many, many years of being at the bottom tables for the most part, or just playing in very narrative events. And this is fantastic. I'm really excited. So I'll see you in the next video. And best wishes in your next event.